Do you, and this is just my curiosity, but do you think there is a point of musically of, hey, this this is too much. This is amplifying a negative emotion rather than providing the release for a negative emotion.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think myself, and I can't think, I mean, I wish I maybe researched this a little bit more in terms of like maybe preparing for our podcast, but I definitely know there's some songs that can kind of, I guess, bring me back to certain times in my life where I was having more challenges than maybe more pleasurable, life experiences. So I mean, and yeah, maybe I can kind of relate like my current Spotify playlist. Like I know when I was in grad school and you're going through, I mean, a lot of tests, you're balancing, life and work and all that, stuff, surviving, I say. Maybe there's some portions of my own playlist I could go back to, or maybe I should, and kind of revamp it a little bit, right? Because maybe if I'm on the stairs one day and I'm in a good mood, maybe that'll bring me back to maybe a more difficult time. Yeah, I mean, I think, and I know I'm kind of going off topic a little bit, but just thinking out loud, right? Like we want to stay maybe on that course that we're on of that positive, good energy to also give out to the world. So maybe, having one song or a few that brings us back, like we know it's almost like a trigger, right? Like if I hear
Mhm.
that, I'm going to be, yeah, no. I mean, and for me, a story, my mom, she, when she's been in the grocery store, I remember as a kid, like there were a few times I noticed she had some tears. And when we would get to the car, she's like, yeah, like when I hear a certain song, like it brings back the passing of a loved one. So, very early on, I was attuned to, okay, maybe there are certain things that, even parents, people that we look up to might also feel. So there's nothing, no shame in how we feel either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually go back to my previous years of my year and recap, and I'll just like go through the playlist, and then I'll see if there's any songs that I'm like, wait, did I actually listen to that song? And I like it just like makes you realize it's like why in that moment, you know. But then you listen to it again, just it's a whole new perspective of like, okay, this song didn't mean anything to you now, but it meant something in the prior years. Um, I don't know if you guys ever done that, like going back to your like prior year playlist.
Yeah.
No, I mean there there's been times where I'm specifically looking to listen to music to cope, and I'll put on songs that really worked for me years ago, and they just don't work for me anymore. They're not where I'm at personally, mentally, emotionally, whatever, and they really aren't speaking to me anymore. And but I also think there's a lot of fun in finding the songs that speak to you when you're in that place of like, hey, I need music to bring me somewhere. Um, at least I think it's a lot of fun. You know, we were talking about Spotify and Pandora and all those and their suggestions, like value to that process. I think
Yeah.
um,
What was your
the
first uh, music instrument that did you ever listen to? Was it like an iPod or a disc play?
oh, oh I'm a bit older than those. I had a Walkman
A Walkman.
like
Okay.
with this tape deck. Yeah, um, I had Elton John was the first thing that I remember, and there's some contention between family members about what my first concert was, whether it was Elton John or Billy Joel. Clearly, my family really wanted me to get into the piano, but yeah, I remember I had an Elton John tape and a Walkman, and I would just like 5 years old, 6 years old, really young, just have that on and uh, listen to Rocket Man.
Nice.
Cool.
Um, that does bring up something that I wanted to talk about with music and with coping and everything. There are some, I mean, a lot of musicians do this to some extent, but there are some musicians and some songs where they are talking, the lyrics are very negative and uh, down, but the feeling of the song is the opposite. Um, and I like, first off, I love those songs musically. I don't know what they do in terms of helping me with coping or anything. The one that springs to mind is like, here is the best example I can think of is "Hey Ya" by Outkast. I don't know if either of you have listened to the lyrics of those songs. It's a dark song,
Hmm.
um, but yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Do Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think sometimes when we hear a song, like we might have a different perspective, too. I mean, I'm not too familiar with that song off the top of my head, but even sometimes, like I might, like if I like the beat of a song, I'm already adding it to my playlist, but maybe I'm playing it in the car with others and they're like, well, do you know what that's saying? And I'm like, well, I like the beat. Maybe I'm not really paying attention. I'm just kind of in my own little happy world or, but I'll go back and I'll listen to it and look up the lyrics and follow it. I know Spotify, I can see the lyrics as I'm playing the song. So I go, oh, wow, maybe that part fits in with what I'm going through. Or maybe, okay, like maybe that might have affected somebody that was in my car. I don't know. Everybody, we all go through things, right? Grow through things too. So, sometimes you don't really know until you go back and kind of reread what you're, listening to.
There's a lot of transitions that new artists are bringing up within their albums.
Hmm.
Example, The Weeknd, like he's like known for his like transitions into like just either going from dark to like energetic.
Yeah,
So those usually like I don't know, like what you mentioned, Aaron, like the negativity and then how they can just like go off of a different tangent of positive.
yeah,
Um, I'm drawn to more like those artists basically.
yeah. I mean, I remember when I was younger, I used to really. It doesn't happen as much now because a lot of stuff gets released as singles, but artists are still releasing full albums, at least somewhat regularly. Um, but I remember if there was any album from an artist where I could buy the CD, put it in, and listen to the whole thing the whole way through, and never want to skip a song. Um, I would I was always impressed by that ability because like an album is, as you were talking about, it's a journey. It's a mental journey, and you don't want to be up all the time and you don't want to be down all the time. You kind of want those transitions to happen.
Happy medium. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree with that. And even like my past EDC experience, I have to say this past one, I've seen artists that I never thought I would see ever because most of them go to like Ibiza, Las Vegas, which I've never traveled out of country. So, I mean, I mean, I would if I had $1 million, I'd be traveling all around the world and seeing all of my favorite artists come to life in front of me. But it's interesting because sometimes, even at the beginning of like an artist's performance or their set, right? Like there was one artist named Morton, and he came out and he's kind of up and coming, but he's had a few great hits recently that have really kind of taken over in collaboration with other artists. But he came out and he's like, let me take you guys on a journey, like surrender yourself for the next 90 minutes to me, to let me take you. Because I mean, again, I think EDC, it's got to be at least 50,000, if not more people. I mean, you're scrunched into some of these stage areas, but again, I always go back to that mental health concept, right? Like we're going through something, maybe we've experienced different things. Sometimes you look over at a concert or a music festival and somebody's crying, somebody's laughing, somebody's, we all resonate with music so much differently, but we're all standing in front of the same stage, listening to the same thing. It's crazy, and that's why I really appreciate music festivals because again, it's just so different.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, in fairness, some of that might be drugs, but I
Mm,
agree that
yeah.
there is
Yeah.
there is a different, a different a different feeling, but still a unitedness that comes from music festivals. Um, Speaking of drugs and music festivals, I years ago, my younger sister, the one who's a Bad Bunny fan, I took her to Riot Fest in Chicago. My wife and I go usually end up going to that every year. It was one of our first kind of group things that we've done, and so we've turned it into a tradition. So I took her with us one year, and she was 13, 14, maybe at that age where kids start experimenting with that sort of stuff. Um, and
Aaron,
we
sorry,
were,
what is a riot fest? I have no clue.
yeah,
For the listeners as well. Or
I'm sorry. I did not hear all of that. What were you
no, no.
saying?
What is a riot fest that you mentioned?
Yeah. Thank you for calling me out on that. Riot Fest is um, I guess you can say counterculture music festival in that's held in Chicago every year in Douglas Park. Um, it a lot of punk music, but there was also NWA has been there. Um, uh, Body Count, which is Ice T's band, has been there. Snoop Dogg's been there. Modest Mouse, like a lot
Wow.
of just all over the place type things. Skrillex was there one year. So it's usually just kind of counterculture type music. Um, but yeah, it's a good time. Small plug for Riot Fest, I guess. Anyway, but we were there, and I can't remember what band we were watching, um, but some dude, definitely a lot older than my sister, offered her uh, offered her a joint,
Oh,
and I remember thinking to myself like, what is my response supposed to be in this circumstance? Because I'm very much a live and let live type person where like, hey, if it's not gonna hurt anybody, that's fine. But also that's my sister and she's like 13 or 14 and I don't know that this is okay. Fortunately, she just said, oh no thank you. So I didn't have to kind of figure things out in the moment. She did it for me, thankfully. Um, but I do think that that is a really, I don't want to say negative because I don't think it is, but it is a really interesting thing about the music festival scene is that drugs are there. Um, but I also, I've been to a ton of music festivals. Ali, obviously you have too. I've never been to a music festival where there was a problem. You know,
hmm.
I've never, and it to be off topic a little bit, but it does have me kind of thinking, I guess, not really commenting or taking a stance one way or the other, because there is a really strong tie between drugs and music. There are a lot of, very talented musicians who are very open about their drug use, and there are a lot of very uh, addicted people who use music as an excuse for their addiction.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know if that's something we could really get into on this podcast about music, but it is something that just really interests me because there's a two ways about it, if that makes any sense.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't know if either of you guys have a comment. It just popped into my head and I went rambling.
No, it's interesting that you share it. I mean, and just the clinician in me, I think about how some substances can alter our states of mind. I mean, personally, when I go to a music festival, I mean, I've never witnessed any issues, and I'm hopeful that, people are safe when they go, with their friends, family, and peers. Um, but yeah, I mean, kind of like different situations in our lives, right, that can alter our mood. I mean, substances could too. So I'm wondering if there's any research, just being a science nerd in psychology, like, does, the consumption of different substances alter maybe your interest in music? I don't know. Maybe there is research out there, but again, like you said, maybe it's a topic for a better time. But that is something interesting, Aaron. It makes my wheels in my head kind of spin. To think about that kind of stuff.
As a quick aside, now I really want to do a podcast on drugs and mental health. So if you're interested in commenting, being a part of that, please reach out to us in the comments. We'd love to have a ton of different opinions on that. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, nothing on my end. I feel like it sometimes might help regards to like anxiety for people, just being
Mm-hmm.
around that many group of people. So
Mm-hmm.
taking drugs, I guess, will like I don't know help with that rather than like the enhancing of the music by itself, or it might go hand in hand. Uh, so yeah, it might
Yeah.
just more
Like
research
the
should be
social
done.
drinker, as it were.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Makes sense. Um, I did this. This is totally random, but there's this quote from Bob Marley, which I'm sure you might have heard at some point, but it's just a really beautiful quote about how now I can't remember the quote, but so I'm paraphrasing, but it's when music hits you, you feel no pain. It's on shirts and posters at Spencer's, if Spencer's is still a thing. But I do think that there is that quality to music that we've all experienced on some level, maybe not to a huge extent, but on some level of just music eliminates the pain or it takes it away.
Yeah. Yeah, music can almost be like that instant form of self-care, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
for some people, including myself, like if I'm just having a day where I just feel like I'm all over the place, like again, Alan Walker, shout out to him. I'm sure to him, I'm like a nobody fan, but I think he's just amazing. He's awesome. So, I mean, I've seen him 3 times. He's cool. So for me, at least, thinking back to those times when, I was in different parts of my life, and I would see him and it was almost like, okay, like I'm going to go back to my world now. And maybe I have something coming up that's going to be a little bit challenging that I know I'm going to go through, but I'm going to grow through it. Right. So, I listened to maybe one of his songs that I was screaming every lyric out at the concert that I went to, and it brings me centered. Like I'm like, okay, like right now, if I have a lot going on, I'm gonna think back to that 75 minutes he was on stage, and that one song just brought me immense joy, even to the point of tears of happiness of like, wow, like this is cool. So you can kind of get out of your own head when you have a lot going on, if that makes sense, but bring yourself back to like, okay, I'm resetting myself maybe while I'm just sitting with a bunch of friends or even in my own room by myself. Like I have that power to be able to do that.
Absolutely. I do remember reading an article that said that singing is a endorphin and dopamine releaser, and so it does scientifically help you feel better to sing. Um, just as a quick aside, um, I did want to transition, I guess, to Ali. You and I were talking earlier about the and please explain it because I didn't really understand it when we were talking. But the
Yeah.
the the songs with the subliminal frequencies that you can listen to.
Yeah, so and this was something, I mean, again, I know we listen to music for productivity purposes and things along those lines, but I remember when I was studying for my exit exam in school, I'm a very anxious test taker. I'll fully admit it. I am the worst test taker. You can sit here and quiz me on whatever the test is on. I'll give you probably 90-95% of all the right answers. But when I sit down to take an exam, I'm horrible. I will get them. I'll fail, and I know I won't fail if it's a verbal thing, but maybe something like I'm writing things down. But anyway, getting back on topic, when I was in grad school, my father who does a lot of different research and things. He's like, well, to help with your test taking anxiety, there's things on YouTube, right, that you can listen to. And I never really was familiar with it, but there's these different frequencies that can kind of alter your mood. So something he found was like you're listening to ocean sounds, you're listening to raindrops, but underneath that is these frequencies where, and I don't know, I'm not a content creator of these by any means, so I would love to learn maybe more about how they do it, but there's a way that your subconscious is picking up this: I am strong, I can do this, I can take a test. I mean, there's hundreds, probably thousands on thousands of videos that you can find of these. So uh, for the 6 months that I was prepping for my exit exam, it takes a long time to memorize, or to learn this like 800-page book in grad school for the program I was in. um, to feel comfortable to sit and actually take the first effort of the exam. I passed on my first try, not by a great amount. Again, horrible test taker. But I have to say, from every single night, even sometimes during the day of doing things around the house, like I'm listening to these rain sounds, but underlying are these messages that my subconscious is picking up on. So there's a lot of different research on it. I know certain frequencies, at least from the research I found, like the 400s to 600s, at least for myself, when I've played those, like I listen to them when I sleep. I don't put them extremely loud, just at like a very small volume. Like if I feel like I need a little extra support, I've noticed those ones make me almost wake up kind of not in a bad mood, but I feel a little like more like agitated. Whereas between the 700s to 1,000, they call them the HZs, the frequencies, those make me feel more productive. So again, it just is based on like what you're looking for. I mean, in that case of my life at that point, it was test taking, confidence building, easing my anxiety and my nerves, and just really helping myself to believe in me. I had friends, family, hundreds of people believing in me, but I didn't 100% believe in myself at that time. I look back and I think it was silly, because now I'm like, wow, that was such an easy time. Like you got through it, right? But at that time, that was my crutch, that was my help. So I mention it because you find something you like, and it's like, wow, like I look forward to laying down and listening to, and you're not limited to rain and ocean sounds. There's so many of them that you could listen to, and it really helps, I think, at least for me. Do you guys feel like it would help for either of you? Or, I mean, do you know anyone that's ever done something like that?
It was a great point. I mean, brought up by Aaron and then Ellie, just mentioning that. I was curious in regards to that topic of frequencies,
Yeah.
as like in today's world, a lot of people uses white noise, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the frequencies like mainly used. They're like helping a baby sleep or even adults sleep, right? It's used as in like ambient sound, but not technically listed as music. But
Right.
some artists like incorporate that in like their songs basically. So I'm glad you brought that topic up. It's like, how does that help you? I mean, white noise, I've never was not used to it or anything like that, but now I have a nephew, which my sister has a device that plays all these different type of like sounds, right?
Yeah.
Which helps him sleep. But at that point, I see myself dozing off too. Um, have you guys had any experience with that?
Well,
I
and I was gonna
mean,
say too, like you have to be kind of careful when you choose to use these. I mean,
yeah. Hmm.
any YouTube video I've ever turned on, I mean, I don't watch the 9, 10 hour video because it's just the same picture on the screen, or it's just a black screen. Because especially if you're in a dark room trying to sleep, you don't want like the bright video picture on. So, I put my phone down, but there's always a disclaimer at the beginning, like this can give immense relaxation. So it's not recommended for driving or traveling or when lifting heavy machinery, because your safety, your physical well-being is also very important. So I mean, I've been in situations where I've been running around like crazy, like the Energizer Bunny, but then I put one of those on and I'm like, all right, like I'm ready for a nap. I'm good. How about you, Aaron?
I have zero experience with any of this at all. This is brand new stuff for me. I really struggle with insomnia, so I've got to give this a shot because actually last night or this morning I woke up at 3, couldn't get back to sleep.
Oh.
So if this works, well, thank you. I um I when we were talking about it earlier, when you brought it up, my head was in a completely different space. I was thinking like more childish things, honestly. I was thinking of like the brown note of like, oh, there's a note you can hit and it makes people poop. That urban myth. I don't know if you've heard that. If you haven't, congratulations. That's an awesome thing to avoid because it's pretty dumb. Um, but I was thinking that, or like years ago in like the 70s and 80s, there was maybe even the 60s too. There were bands that would play um, have songs that if you played them in reverse, they would say something. Like Judas Priest got in trouble because they had a song that kept saying "Do it." I know the Beatles had an album that kept saying "Paul is dead." Um, that's where my head was at. What you're bringing up is way better than what I thought it was.
Yeah, it's a little different. I mean, and like I said, if not for my father, I would not have known about it. And even to this day, like, I don't know if I, am wanting to feel more empowered, I'll look up one. And again, you're not to the ear hearing these underlying messages, but if you look in like the descriptor of the YouTube or wherever you're finding them, you're able to see what is being essentially like secretly transcribed into your mind, right? And something I noticed, at least from my first experiences of it, like you always kind of want to try to find one and stick with it for a little while. Because I remember like one night I was watching this one and then that one, and even though like you're sleeping, it almost feels like when you woke up you were kind of awake in a way, but you were working. Like I almost feel like I wake up and I'm already ready to go, and not a bad thing, I mean, I don't like when I wake up and I'm like, ugh, it takes me forever with the coffee and stuff to get up, but it almost just is like a boost. Like, okay, like you're up, let's go, let's be productive. So, there's just so many of them, like, and I can't even begin. I will be here all night if we go down that rabbit hole of the different types. But I've seen ones that empower people for weight loss, for processing grief, for minimizing depression. I mean, we could go keep going, but there's also ones that I've seen linked to where you'll actually hear someone's voice with some music in the background. It's like a guided meditation session. So there's just so much out there. And I say it's those free resources, right? That you can just log on, type in a topic, and you'll find it. And you can bring that coping to yourself without having to spend a ton of money on it.
I have to give this a shot. I really never have. Um, I will say I've tried to do like the guided meditation with the ambient sounds before,
Yeah.
and I have all of 5 minutes of patience in me before I'm like, okay, I got to be up and doing something. Um, but I'm happy to give it a shot. And is this strictly like you mentioned that there's more, right? Like
Mhm.
we were talking about relaxation and de-stress and everything, but are there songs or sounds? I'm still confused. So
Yeah,
Right,
no,
and
please forgive me
there's
for
like
my
sound
ignorance here.
noises as well, different type of like color noises. But the main I have experienced with is the white noise, which correlates to like relaxation and like helps you sleep basically.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
but yeah, there might be other ones that I'm not familiar with. Yeah.
There's the one I found recently, and I sometimes find these actually on TikTok. I talk about these things so much that when I go on my TikTok app, it must just listen to me. But I go on and like I'll be scrolling, and then I come to one of these frequency videos and I stop because for me it's like, okay, this found me. It must mean I might need it, right? So pink noise, I believe, is what it was. I'm someone, I was told I had ADHD, where, I mean, maybe that's why I'm just so ambitious, and I do a lot of great, things, and I always like to keep myself very, very busy and productive, right? But
Mhm.
sometimes it's just nice to kind of be like, let's just focus on this, like this one thing right now. And in terms of what the pink noise did, was it kind of just, I don't want to say silences your mind, but it just kind of brings you, okay, you're here. You're not all these other places right now. Like, center yourself, ground yourself, let yourself just be. And it's nice. And I know sometimes, like when I'm even watching TV, there's the Calm app. Advertisements, and it's like, all right, the next 30 seconds, listen to this wave sound. It just brings us back, because again, we're in so many different places, but there's just so many different options as well, really.
I have no additional comments. I'm just taking it all in. This is a brand new world and topic for me. Um, wow. Sorry, I really, I mean, I guess it makes sense because there's just an overwhelming amount of empirical evidence that suggests that we can subliminally or uh, not so subliminally alter our perceptions in the way that we think and process information. Like I'm a big fan of setting up zones. Where, like this right here, this is my office. If I'm here, I'm working. If I'm not, uh, that's it. That's the only thing. So for me, like when I enter into this area, I immediately switch in my head to, hey, it's time to be productive, which is very helpful for me. But it makes sense, and I don't know anything about it on like the scientific and academic level, but it would make sense that there's other ways to do it auditorially as well as visually and everything. So that's cool. I'll have to look into this.
Yeah, yeah, and it's different. And like you said, sometimes it's hard to just take yourself out of a situation. Like with me, sometimes, like, yeah, I'll do a guided meditation. Like I actually do them sometimes when I go into like a tanning bed, because it gives me something to just focus on other than just sitting for, however long. Um, but too, like, there's no real effort, I guess, is what I'm saying. Like when I'm going to sleep, I all I do is I just stream my phone to my television. I put it at a volume where if an advertisement does come up, it won't wake me up out of that, sleep. Um, but it'll give me that time where, okay, the video's 10 hours. I know I don't sleep 10 hours a night. I'm probably a 2 to 4 hour a night sleeper, because I'm just very busy, but that's okay. I know during that time I am getting that information instilled in my head on those days that I need it, maybe for a boost for the next day. Again, I'm not going out and buying things. I'm being cost efficient. I don't feel like it interferes with my sleep, but that's just from my experience. I think everyone has a different experience. It also depends on what you're looking to achieve. I know for you, Aaron, you're looking for more, the management with getting sleep, and being able to stay asleep. So there's some videos that are just for that. For me, again, with test taking, like, let's minimize that anxiety. So on test day, you're not as anxious. So really, it's kind of setting that goal for yourself of what you want.
How do you guys think? I mean, just a little bit off topic in regards to technology being used to listen music or all these sounds, right? I mean, prior, like you said, you had a Walkman, Aaron, and then as technology grew, you have all these different things where there's like adaptive like listening, where right, if you move your head side to side, if the music and it will follow you. There's a transparency mode, there's a noise cancellation mode where it just blurs out all the noises in the background. But do you see that, like, does it enhance your like taste in music more, or you find yourself just the noise from the phone is perfectly enough for you to enjoy the music?
I mean, yes and no. I think that like there's no there's no loss in not having this stuff. Um, but I can say when you get to really dial in and just have the music be what you're hearing, and that's it, that that is something. And have it, I have not had the headphones where they follow you as you move. That's pretty cool. But it is very helpful, I think. For me, the big technology thing that just uh, kind of opened up the world of music, it was two, and they happened kind of back to back, was the MP3 player in iTunes. I know the MP3 player was before iTunes, but iTunes really was what made it such a huge thing. When that came out, I had a library of 2 months of just solid listening of songs where there was no repetition. It would just 2 months in that library. And that was amazing because it just opened up the world of music in a new way that I never saw before. And I started to, that's really where, for me, where music started to expand me culturally, versus just kind of be as a coping mechanism, or a joy machine, or I don't have a good word, but hopefully you know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
How about you, Ali?
I mean, yeah, I just was actually thinking in my head about like cultures, right? Like for me, I mean, I know English, right? I want to learn new languages. When I was younger, I used to listen to, and I know I'm kind of going off topic with what we were discussing, but again, just a thought. Like I would listen to Ramstein, who I don't know if they're more rock or metal or combination of both, but when you listen to them, they almost sound angry. But then when you look up the lyrics and translate it, they sound, like just having a regular conversation sometimes, or something that you
Yeah,
would never connect together. And even with and one song that I don't know why I was thinking of this one. And I don't know the exact name, but I know along the lines, it's like I will win. It's Pavarotti, where I've seen like reaction videos on YouTube where, people will be watching the most iconic part of the song where I mean, he's singing a cappella and he hits the really high note, and just how that resonates with someone. So I definitely appreciate different cultures because, again, right now, we can verbalize, what we're thinking about, but to listen to something and kind of be brought into another person's world, and try to understand it, it just gives that level of wow, we're a part of all different cultures. We're in the same music community, but we all have different voices that can advocate for something. That's really kind of what I just was thinking of based off of what we were discussing before. I don't know why. Like that just came up, but
no, no. How about you, Ravi? Either culture or technology?
I mean, I'll get back to culture. Just going off of the technology, it does for me enhances a lot of things in terms of like if there's any like bass is louder or just the treble as well. So like listening to those voices or music in like a system like AirPods, right?
Mhm.
It's more creative. Or having the noise cancellation on for me to focus more, where I have no outside noise like just in my ear, and I can focus at that point, or even sleeping at that point, or meditation where I can do noise cancellation, where it's just like the meditation music going on in the background. Um, and then culture wise, like I said, English is not the first language. So speaking, coming from a country where multiple languages are spoken, and then each language has its own music. It's very nice. It was very nice, and then it's very cool to hear at the same time, where you have your friends from different states listening to different songs, and where you can go into that state, or you can connect between like, oh, I really like that song, but I do not understand anything that they're saying, but just liking the beats and everything else, the instruments, which at the end of the day is just the same feeling that you get.
Yeah, and it's universal, and I guess probably where I was thinking about the technology aspect is, like I said before, I have probably 100 of those AirPods. I mean, maybe name brand, generic brand, the big ones that go over your ears, the little ones with the wire that anytime I use my Peloton, it just seems to wrap around like everything. So I try to use the wireless ones. But when it comes to technology, I always think about, again, those resources we have, YouTube, Spotify. I mean, I believe globally we all have access to these different pieces of technology, right? And it's just so interesting to me. Like, if I'm driving in my car, I love my music going through my speakers. But
Mhm.
it also depends on, too, the streaming device I'm using. It almost seems like YouTube, at least for me, I have an iPhone, I have a Toyota RAV4 as my vehicle. My bass sounds better when I use YouTube. So if I'm listening to something more electronic, I might go to YouTube versus my own playlist that I pay a subscription fee. I know that sounds weird, but that's just my preference, I guess. But maybe to someone else, they don't like that. Maybe they go in their settings and they make it, take the bass down a little bit. But again, technology can enhance the experience or unenhance it, at least for me.
So I'm gonna try to tie the culture and technology part together and tie into what you were talking about earlier, Ali, with Ramstein. So I am a bit of a music history nerd. Ramstein is obviously a German band, but that particular music genre is called industrial, um, and it did come out of Europe in late 70s, more early 80s. But it's really interesting about the cultural part of it because it started with essentially kids going to junkyards and recording sound. So like
Oh,
industrial was really the origin of electronic music,
hmm.
which is I think really interesting that it came from a very metal tied uh, genre. But yeah, they would just go to junkyards and record sounds, and because it was all like trash basically that they were recording, it ended up having a very heavy percussive element to it. And then but there's all types of European at that time and still and now still who do that type of music, but they're talking about different things. It's not like an angry metal thing, it's just they're using that heavy percussive sound. um, Interestingly, perhaps not good, perhaps good, I don't really know. But when it crossed the Atlantic and came to the U.S., uh, Americans, North Americans as well, uh, kind of heard the anger in there, and that's not necessarily what the core of a lot of those songs were. Some of them absolutely, but there is a really stark divide between the U.S. industrial sound and lyrics and the European sound and lyrics, and it's really interesting to me how that has evolved into electronica now, and they're using essentially digitally rendered sounds to do what they did in junkyards almost 50 years ago.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good point.
Sorry, that's just me being a music history nerd and being like, here's
No,
my knowledge.
no, that's cool because I mean, we listen to music, right? I mean, I notice now, like even when I'm in the gym, like I'll start humming the beginning of a song and then it's actually a remake. So sometimes I'm like, so the artist before this one wrote it, but sometimes there's even an artist before it, but where did the origin come from, right? Like what was it? I mean, even when I was in school and I took all of those music courses and I played a lot of different instruments and did a lot of things in the, I say music realm, it's nice to just kind of hear where something came from, that you have so a part of your life. I mean, like you said, this is the origin for like electronic music and things. I mean, now, I don't know if it's more AI based or like you said, digitally rendered, but sometimes like it's a machine making the sound versus something making an actual sound. So these are the things I crave to listen to when I'm going through a tough time or need a good tough workout. So just really cool, and you make it, appreciate it more for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I th- I think that is the core of music, I guess, is the emotional connection, whether it's to yourself or to other people. Um, I don't know if you've seen the Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper movie A Star Is Born, but he has a line in there where uh, he says something along the lines of everybody has something to say. The talent is saying something in a way that people want to listen, and I think that's really what we get from music is wanting to listen to what other people have to say. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Yeah. Yeah, and everyone has a different message. I mean, I'm someone, I've kind of spoke quite a bit about how I'm more of a hands-on type of person versus like reading and things. So if someone wrote something or wanted to have an impact or advocate for something, like they can certainly do it through music because we're watching it, we're listening to it, we're connecting maybe with one or more instrument or a line in the song. So yeah.
yeah, yeah, there. I don't know. It is crazy how music connects us. How music connects us.
It does.
So, bringing things back to mental health, one of the things that I've seen lately that I in music that I am really encouraged by, and I hope it continues, is musicians and even well, let me back up. Is one, musicians talking about mental health and their issues and the issues of their fans directly,
Mhm.
which I think is just incredibly encouraging. Doshi has a song that just came out, Anxiety,
Yeah.
which is really popular, clearly about anxiety. I know a few years ago there was a song released where the name of the song was the suicide hotline number, which is another just great thing in terms of pushing mental health forward and getting people more comfortable with being healthy mentally. Um, but Ali, you were also talking about artists who are really putting their fame and their money toward advancing mental health. I think that's also amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's some you know, musicians that, they'll maybe do like benefit concerts where, they'll pick a venue, but everything goes for donation. And one of the three times I saw Alan Walker, not that it was, I don't want to say it was directly towards mental health awareness, but he was in Sarasota, which is maybe like a 50-minute ride with traffic for me. But I'm like, he's coming to Florida, like I'm making every effort to go. So I had went, and it was actually for like a gymnastics benefit event. So I don't remember the exact age group, but it was kiddos that I think they travel, but they also have this venue where, I mean, just beautiful, beautiful like events. It's almost like the Cirque du Soleil. I'm probably botching how I would say it, but like they're on the hoops and just that they're professional athletes. That's really what it is. I mean, from 3 to 18 years old, I believe was the age bracket. But Alan Walker came all the way from his international tour to Florida to help to raise money for this specific venue and for what they were putting out to the world of you know you can help the community, things like that. And I just link that with mental health because I think not just for the benefit of the public of being an advocate for, hey, maybe it's a charity event like this, maybe it's a again, raising money for illness, whatever it may be. It all comes back to trying to make a positive difference in the community and overall make our mental health better. So when I see, artists being open, I know I've watched a lot. I mean, when I was younger, I liked Disney quite a bit, and like Demi Lovato, she's a singer through Disney, what was through Disney, but now she has her own stuff. Even Miley Cyrus, like I've seen so many interviews where they're like, yeah, like you saw me on TV as this actor. I looked like I had everything together, but behind the scenes, I was crumbling. I was a kid. Like I worked extreme amounts of hours, and it was just hard to have like a life. And but I brought joy to people, and now through my other endeavors, music, whatever it may be, like I'm helping to empower other people. I don't know if there's a specific like childhood star, whether it be in music or acting. I mean, I think kind of sometimes they go hand in hand, right? Like sometimes you see someone as an actor, they become a musician, or vice versa. That resonates with either of you that you might want to share a little bit about as well.
Hmm. I was recently introduced to this band called Green Day. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of them or not.
Yeah.
And then I mean, going back to the point of like how a band can like make a difference in the community, right? So they had a song named, I believe, it was like American Idiot, where it's basically about like post 9/11 and then what the news, how the news would impacting all these people, and then like coming out the worst of them towards other people as well. So do you guys have any thoughts on if there's like any song that like connects to you in regards to that, where like they also talk about like politics and then like bring back the community as well?
I can't think of anything. Can you, Aaron?
This conference will now